Greetings and welcome to another round of Master Phil in Your Corner. This is episode number 85, When to Fight and When to Walk Away. Our special guest today is Dr. Jack Kerwick, professor of philosophy, published author, and a pundit of martial arts and real think, as I like to say. Jack, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're definitely a repeat offender here. We've been on, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times. This might be the 4th time, right?
I think so.
So, you've been here a lot because we love what you have to say, and we have, great conversation here. And I'm really looking forward to this subject because it's super, super important.
Absolutely.
So, Jack, just give everyone a little bit of background for the first-time listeners to the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I have my PhD in philosophy. I've been teaching going on my 24th year. I have a black belt in Tang Soo Do. I'm a senior instructor in warrior flow combatives. So it's only been within the last so many years that I really started immersing myself in the martial arts and using that really as an opportunity to expand my knowledge of philosophy.
Sure.
And which in turn has helped me to expand my knowledge of the martial arts.
I mean, if you look at a lot of the martial arts a lot of the philosophy based in martial arts, right? Look at the tenets of Bruce Lee, Sun Tzu, Yado Musashi. I mean, incredible philosophers that, the stuff carries forward. I'll tell you, a great book I used when I was in sales was Samurai Selling.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's impossible to avoid it. I mean, if you are a martial artist, it's impossible not to have some philosophy of what the martial arts is, even if you're not consciously cognizant of the fact that you have some philosophy. It's like science. People talk about science as if it's this kind of, self-explanatory, infallible method. It's not. I mean, science presupposes a philosophy of science, and there's been many philosophies of science.
Absolutely.
I've written a whole series on this. People trust the science. Well, people who, or the science is settled. People who make claims like that are either illiterate when it comes to science, the history and philosophy of science, or they're just being deceitful.
Yeah, because they're making money from it.
Yeah.
Talking about training in martial arts.
Yes.
One of our sponsors we have to thank, of course, is philross.com, because without philross.com, this would not be possible. So if you need kettlebell training, certifications, body weight, defensive tactics, so forth, we have a whole video series listed on Patreon, including all defensive tactics and kettlebell and body weight strength. So let's get back to the subject. So now, one of the things that we really need to address, especially you're a trained martial artist, right? And, with all these different laws coming out, the way that, I don't know, things seem to be slighted to the side of the criminal. When to use your defensive tactics, when you can defend yourself, when you should do it, when you should walk away, because I'll tell you, many people have never been confronted. And when they do, they don't know what to do. And then, you can have seasoned martial artists that have been trained for 30 years and they never had a street fight. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, good for them, but when it happens, what are you going to do? When do you know when to walk away? When do you know when to pull the trigger? There's so many different questions. So, as the true warrior knows, true warrior tries to avoid war because they know the repercussions of it.
Right.
And certainly, even if you defend yourself and you think you're justified, and you may be justified, but you put someone down, you could spend some jail time. You could definitely have to go down to the police station. You might get arrested. You're probably going to go to court. So let's talk about some of those philosophies there that are embodied that we should look at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, if you want my thoughts on this,
well, you're here for a reason. You're a good-looking guy, but
Yeah. Well, see, you're mentioning the potential legal repercussions of, using violence in a, the proverbial street confrontation or a house invasion or something. And those are definitely, critical repercussions for a person to consider.
Mhm.
But there's also, the moral dimension. And so I look at it this way, right? Since I've, been training in warrior flow, so I've been training under its founder, who is a retired Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel.
Mhm.
He is he's been in multiple tours of duty, over 100 combat operations, a recipient of multiple combat action ribbons, lifelong martial artist. The warrior in the name Warrior Flow is not metaphorical. That term warrior is used so indiscriminately today.
Mhm.
And I don't have any objection per se to its being used in that way sometimes, but it's more rhetorical in a lot of contexts.
Mhm.
In the context of this art, it's literal. So we train to use violence if and only if our lives or the lives of our loved ones are imminently endangered. And that means that since the violence for which we're preparing is potentially mortal, it's really akin to warfare in many ways. I mean, people die in war. The kind of violence that we're anticipating is violence that could mean someone's going to die.
Well, even if you just look at the word martial, what does martial mean?
Of or pertaining to war.
Right. People
Exactly.
think it's about, oh, getting a black belt and blah, 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 blah. Your 9-year-old kid getting a black belt from the belt factory down the street. No, it's
Right.
martial arts. If it's taught the way it's supposed to, it's lethal and deadly.
Right. Right. And yeah, and so here is my attitude toward this. Right. And I'll keep my language clean because I know it's
Yes.
a
Yeah,
family
we're keeping
friendly,
it clean, keeping it G.
it's a family friendly show,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Um, but
Not the
because
Manson family.
what's
Not the Manson
that's
family.
right, it's right. It's more like Brady Bunch.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I take this seriously. I mean, I have a passion for this stuff. So I'm developing this philosophy as I'm training through it, as I'm training other people. If you're training to be a warrior, that means you're not training to be a quote unquote tough guy. The two are not to be conflated with one another, right? So all the chest thumping, the eye staring, the crap talking. This is stuff for which a warrior really has no use. And in order to kind of distinguish myself in my own mind from the predators, the criminals, the scumbags. Um, this is how I have to see myself. I'm not someone who's going to preface encounters with the ritualistic posturing and this kind of stuff. No, in fact, I think there's something very unmanly about that. That's the stuff of adolescence. It's the stuff of boys. In some cases, it's the stuff of girls, but it's not manly. Bottom line is, if you really want a piece of someone, why give the person a heads up? Just come and try to take it.
Yes. See, this is the thing that I was a bouncer for quite a few years. Did some bodyguard work and so forth.
Yeah.
And there's I had my fair share of street confrontations. And when someone let it be known, they played their hand, like they stepped into me.
Yeah.
You know what? You missed your chance. You should have hit.
Right.
Because
Right.
guess what? They come into the zone, game on. I'm
Right.
not going to talk. I'm not going to sit there and jaw back and forth. So anyway, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I was pretty successful in the street. And,
Yeah.
like my friends knew, my coworkers knew when we were bouncing, like if it came down to when I wasn't saying anything, it's going down.
It's going down, right? And at that point, you're not going back and forth with the person.
No.
Said they walk into the zone, then you take care of business and let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. And it's it took me quite a while, to have that realization.
Yeah.
But once I started taking my training more seriously and giving that we do train to critically injure, maim, and kill if we have to do it, I became that much more appreciative
Mhm.
of the critical importance
Yes.
of avoiding stuff if I can.
Talking about training, okay?
Yeah.
You know, I'm always tossed up on, trying to find the perfect formula for training, especially when it comes to defensive tactics. Look, I'm not a competitive fighter anymore. I used to be, used to grapple, kickbox, everything, right? Martial
Right.
arts. I don't do it anymore. I'm just training for, hey, if God forbid something happens,
Right.
I'm gonna go down. Plus, I mean, I like staying in shape doing this stuff. I'm not gonna go out there and run 10 miles. Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna hit the heavy bag. I'm gonna skip rope. I'm gonna hit my speed bag. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna work my knife drills, things
Right.
like that, swing a kettlebell, push some weights, do my calisthenics. But how much do we really need to train? I mean, and you know, this is something that I'm trying to figure out this formula right now. I mean, like right now, I'm doing push pull twice a week with weights. I'm doing my my workout every morning. I'm hitting the bag at least twice a week. I'm doing my knife once or twice a week, shooting once a week, doing my callies and kettlebells twice a week. But and then stretching constantly because shoot, I'm 60. I gotta stretch a
Right.
lot. So, but the thing that I'm worried about is that I was always banging heads, so I was
Yeah.
just taking shots. I don't want to take shots anymore.
Right.
So, but the thing is playing in my head, gosh, I used to be able to take a hell of a shot. I stopped going live maybe like 2 years ago.
Mm.
And I could take a shot, but I don't know, how much of it am I going to lose? How much will people lose from not taking shots, like you used to?
Okay. Yeah. So see, I guess because I know you and I went back and forth through texting a little bit,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I know this was something else that you wanted to address today.
yeah,
See, to me, I would say this is not quantifiable,
yeah.
right? And it also, I guess, depends on what training actually means, and that in turn, so in other words, training is really not something that can be considered independently of context,
Mhm,
right? So the training modality of warrior flow
mhm,
is predicated on this assumption that anyone and everyone against whom we may come,
mhm,
it has every physical advantage over us. So
mhm,
we train to always refine movement
mhm.
to get rid of all excess movement
Yeah.
in order to throw off the enemy's sense of timing long enough to demolish them, right?
Mhm.
Because in moving no more than we have to move, we're moving deceptively.
Yeah.
It's the movement's more difficult for the enemy to track. So
Yes.
that means that I'm training even when I'm walking from point A to point B. I'm being mindful of not taking larger steps than I have to. I'm
Mhm.
looking to move as little as I have to move with each step. I'm always mindful of how the rear leg is pushing off, accelerating, and then the front leg is decelerating before I take the next step. Why? Because I'm mindful of my over travel in case I get into a battle.
Well, also, I want to tell you this too. Well, you bring up a very important point. If you're that conscious, that attuned to what's going on, the chances of you falling, tripping, so forth, doing an uncoordinated movement are lessened
Yes. Right.
significantly. It's funny because when you pay attention, 'cause I always pay attention to the environment. Um,
Yeah.
I was over a friend's house the other night, a bunch of guys there, and I forgot my cell phone in the car. So I go to get my cell phone, and I notice his grill. I saw smoke coming out.
Mm.
So I said to him, I go, well, hey, but I go, what's going on? Your grill still on? He goes, no, I think that's just the heating unit or something. I'm like, okay, I don't know, man. It doesn't look right. So he goes and looks at it. Well, one of the other guys had cooked a bunch of sausage on it and didn't turn off one of the burners. He threw the grill top on. That thing was just about to go up. It
Oh,
started melting.
shoot. Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
he thanked me profusely and then texted me 3 times yesterday. Oh, thanks for the heads up. I'm like, I just like, cause I'm just be aware. There were 600
Right.
guys there. I'm the only
Right.
one that really picked up on this.
You paid it. Yeah. Because you're just aware of your surroundings. And that's a skill
And two
that
other guys were outside too.
What's that?
Two other guys had walked outside.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a skill that you've developed. It's a habit. And you've developed it over the span of decades, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. To the point where sometimes I think I could even be a little paranoid. But but I try to get that in check.
Well, here's the thing. People have often said that to me. Oh gosh, I'm not going to walk around paranoid. Well, it's not paranoid. What you do is you create habits. Look,
Right.
I know you do like I do. You scan the area, you
Right.
level head, you notice things, you pay attention, take it in. You notice where you might not be able to see something, so you make it so you can see it. You predict.
That's right. That's
You
right.
scan, identify, predict, decide, execute, and you just do that as part of your normal routine. It's not paranoid. Actually, it's quite relaxing because I can be relaxed. I know what's going on around me.
That's true. Yeah, no, right. I'm saying sometimes I can even be maybe even a little more mindful, I guess,
Yeah. I would be mindful. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all good. No, it is what it is, and I'm comfortable with it. I am. Yeah, because when you really when given the appreciation for the importance of situational awareness, you recognize how many people seem oblivious.
Oblivious, my friend.
I mean, I saw a woman today who I know from the gym. I was leaving this morning, and
Yeah.
I was breaking her chops a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, it was right, but she's walking in the parking lot with her cell phone, looking at the cell phone. And I
Target.
said, yeah, not that it was likely to happen,
Right.
but shoot, even if it's someone just pulling out from a spot recklessly, not
Right.
seeing her.
Yeah.
Just wait till you get to the front door before you do that stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. I took my little one to the CVS the other day, and we come out from behind the car. My truck is kind of big, and I put my hand out, and I looked first, and sure enough, a car was coming right around the corner.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm like, you always have to pay attention. By the way, it is her birthday today, so I have to give her a shout out. My youngest turned 13 today, so
happy birthday.
So
my son will be 14 in April.
Oh, awesome.
My son's 13 too, yeah.
So,
right.
So now let's play out some scenarios, right? Where
yeah,
it's in handy. When you have a situation where, hey, do I fight? Do I walk? What is it? Because look, I mean, you have road rage situations, and things like, honestly, I used to get pretty pissed off at that, but now I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to be bothered, because if you weigh out the situation, what's going to happen? Best case is, I don't know, nothing happens. Okay.
Right.
Worst case is somebody gets killed.
Right.
What happened? And for what? Because someone didn't put a turn signal on?
I know.
It's insane. Doesn't make any sense.
It is insane, and you go on YouTube and you see all these different martial arts and combatives instructors, putting demos on, and I'm not saying this for the purpose of tearing anyone down, but and even some guys who I can respect as far as it goes, and whose skill I don't doubt. But I see this as being conveyed messaging, right? Like when they're teaching people to, like, okay, you come back here, and well, right there, once you get into that conventional stance, it becomes, first of all, I mean, it telegraphs to the enemy what your intention is. Secondly, don't think that if you bust him up or if someone dies that you can legitimately claim self-defense, because this is acceptance of an invitation to fight. If you had time to do this, you have time to walk.
Right.
Right.
The thing what I would always do is I put my hands up like this.
Yeah, because it's non-threatening.
Right.
Yeah.
Non-threatening. My hands are open, but I'm protected, so I can move.
That's right.
Protect myself and do a counter blow or whatever the case may be. But this is non-threatening. As soon as you close those fists,
yeah,
it's game on.
That's game on, right? And this is still kind of ambiguous, right? You could still legitimately claim self-defense.
Yes.
I didn't want any trouble, but you have your weapons ready to launch.
Oh yeah, and
hey, you're protected.
Yes, I'm protected. My hands are up. The guy came at me. Well, guess what? Okay, definitely, your chance of proving self-defense are way higher than if my hands were up here.
Definitely.
I'm ready to punch him in the face.
Definitely. And if you're but even this, right? It's not. I'm just kind of since just we're having this conversation,
Yeah, sure, sure.
conversation, that even this though,
Mhm.
you know, I guess we're trying to envision the scenario, right? Like, is this indicating that you already had time to walk? Like, what kind of person do you expect would give you an opportunity to, what kind of confrontation, what kind of context do you expect you'd be in where you'd have the opportunity to even do this?
Yeah. Well, you know, then if I relate it to certain things, maybe you're going to your car, or you're being approached and you're going from point A to point B, and someone
I say, yeah,
so you
okay,
in that instance you can't back out, or maybe you're with someone you have to protect.
right,
Maybe
right,
you're with your wife, girlfriend, kid, or something, you know, and you can't run because they'll be left behind.
right, right.
If it's an
Yeah,
ex-wife, maybe you want to run, you know.
yeah, you know, like Musashi, who I know you're familiar.
Yes.
That's right. That's all right. I didn't catch the other one. You know, Musashi, who I know you're familiar with, right? You just mentioned a couple minutes ago. Musashi had said, let your everyday stance be your fighting stance, your everyday stance. So, you know, when I'm training, you know, I'm always training to be able to just, you know, effortlessly extend my arm from my side straight ahead and hit, because that's my everyday stance,
I think what
right?
you just did. I think we just did. I know people, if you're listening, can't see it. You drew that up like you were drawing a gun too, because that's
Right.
also important. You know, whether it's a gun, knife, empty hand, I'm still in the same stance.
That's right.
I'm still moving the same patterns.
That's right. That's right. And that's how, you know, that's how we train in this art. That's how I train. Um, you know, that's how I'm always training, just to try to make my movement as seamless
Yes.
and natural as possible,
Mhm.
because that's where a lot of the power comes from too. A lot of, you know, a lot of guys think that, you know, this, or doing this somehow increases
Mhm.
power, and it's not, it's wasteful motion. And I try to, you know, I try to go over this with these guys who also go in the back room with the bags at the gym
Mhm.
around,
Mhm.
but you can't really, you know, a lot of these guys, they're not responsive to this. It seems so counterintuitive to them
Right.
that you can generate power by just doing this,
Yeah.
you know, with the body lined up, a
With
little
the
bit of
body
a frontal
alignment.
drop, all that.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, it's very like kettlebells. You know, the alignment of the body when you're swinging a kettlebell, doing a snatch, a press. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of these different movements, they fit naturally with martial arts movements and natural movements. So, yeah.
right, right. Yeah. So, but Phil, you know, but getting back, you know, to the topic, you know, and it's, I don't think we've diverted from it either. I think, you know, we're talking about how we train and how we
Goes
move.
together. All
It
goes
all
together.
goes together. Yeah, because we're talking about how we move. And so, you know, doing this is like you said, it's signifying to the person you don't want trouble. At least that's how it could be read.
Right. Right.
Right? But at the same time, you're in position to do what you need to do.
Yep.
Um, and you know, the whole idea of letting your everyday stance be your fighting stance is that at any moment, if you need to, you're ready to go.
Yep.
But honestly, I think along the same lines you do now. I really work very hard at managing my temper,
Yeah.
trying to be more stoic,
Hmm.
and there's just so much. You know, the overwhelming majority of things are avoidable.
Yes. Yes. You know, that's a very important point. You know, if you avoid these situations, you remove yourself from it, then you don't have to deal with it.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
and the thing is, I have friends of mine. One guy's complete stud, monster, big guy, like a national champ wrestler. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
and a big guy picked a fight with him. He wound up knocking him out with one shot, breaking his jaw. Um, but the thing is that he wound up being exonerated. So, but he spent the night in jail, and it cost him 10 grand
Yeah.
to get exonerated, right? And I mean, he was in the right. He was leaving, going to his car,
Uh,
and the guy came after him. But still, in our litigious society, so I mean, and I'm sure that his temper maybe got a little short with him, whatever. I mean, I can understand that,
yeah.
but and he might have been right, but still he had to go and prove it. And look at the hassle. I mean, it was like 8 months of nonsense and gosh, am I going to lose my job now? Like things like that. Who needs that?
Yeah, and so there's two considerations, right? Two kinds of considerations in determining when you should fight and when you should walk.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're moral and legal, right? So, morally, if you're training to become not a sports fighter, not win trophies, contests, but training to take bad people off the planet if they should be so stupid as to jeopardize you and yours, then it's like you're walking around carrying like nuclear weapons. Really,
Yeah.
that's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
So remember what another Musashi quote: "The ultimate aim of training in martial arts is that you don't have to use them." Right?
Yep.
And I think, I think I can't know this for sure, but I think what at least one meaning of that, maybe this is the meaning he had in mind, but certainly the way I read it, is that people who really train to become masterful wielders of violence, they recognize just how ugly, how real it can get.
Oh yeah.
And so they're that much more appreciative of the importance of not placing themselves in situations where they should have to do it. It's like, since we've had the nuclear weapon, it's been used, against Japan.
Yeah.
77, 78 years ago or so. Other countries have it. No one wants to use nuke because they know the kind of destruction, right? So, or think like if you're carrying a gun too. If you're carrying a gun, that's all the much more reason to avoid getting involved in crap.
Oh yeah, like I'm telling you, because I passed my passed the shooting test and so forth, for Jersey and stuff. So I'm really practicing not.
Yeah, and so that's that's the moral. So we have to distinguish ourselves from the predators, just like Batman. In the Batman myth, how Batman refuses to kill. He'll beat criminals within centimeters of their lives, but he won't kill. And his rationale for that is he doesn't want to cross that line.
Right.
In his own mind, he has to be able to differentiate himself from the enemy.
Yeah.
I think we have to do the same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The thing is that and I don't want people to confuse like cowardice or weakness with kindness, or
right.
like Jordan Peterson, right? I love what he was saying was that men should train in martial arts and be capable of great violence.
Yes.
But not exercise it, only exercise when it's needed.
Right.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that shows restraint. That shows a moral code. Look, if you're weak and can't do anything anyway, well, then who cares if you walk away? You have no potential. You have no restraint, no control. You're just weak and you're scared. Okay. But someone who's trained, you want to avoid it because you know the repercussions. So, you try to keep yourself from, like, one of the things that you said was avoidance. Yeah, there's certain things like, look, I was a bouncer for a long time, and the a-hole factor goes up after 12 o'clock.
No doubt. Sure.
After 12 o'clock, almost, I would say 95% of my fights happened after 12.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of the only time I can really remember one prior to that was like we had like this beat the clock night and people were getting loaded.
Oh, right. Yeah, but alcohol's involved, right?
Yep. Well, whenever you hear this, it doesn't start out, hey, I was eating a salad and
no, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
This guy drank a lot and then boom, something happened. So, so you want to avoid this. So you know what? It's getting late. Go home.
Exactly. Right.
Go home. Get out of there. I know that I need to remove myself from this situation. Have you ever been to Times Square during New Year's?
No.
No, I will never do that.
No way.
I'm not going to do it. Why?
No way. Absolutely not.
It's an S show, and I
don't even hanging out at a bar anymore. Hanging out at a bar at all.
Yeah.
To say nothing of hanging out at 11, 10 to 12 1 o'clock in the morning. That
I
just,
want to be
I'm
home.
not, yeah, I'm not,
I get up
I
too
just
early.
want to be home anyhow, but I'm
I
just
get up
not going
too
to
early.
not placing myself in those circumstances, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, Phil, let me just interrupt you real quickly. I'm noticing at my screen, it's saying remaining meeting time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we have, 6 more minutes.
Oh, okay. I thought we were on for an hour, but that's cool.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, no. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually kind of shortened them to like 40 minutes.
That makes sense. I think that's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, because, hour, remember sometimes go hour and a half, just too long.
It is too long.
Yeah,
It is too long.
I don't want to listen to anyone that long. I don't want to listen to me that long.
No, and I don't feel like hearing myself that long.
Exactly. I'm like, God, I want to hear that.
Yeah, but then you also mentioned about the legal repercussions. See, there's another thing too, right? It's sometimes you're going to have to do what you need to do, but what people also don't seem to consider is, like I said, I'm divorced. I have one child. I have my 13-year-old son.
Mhm.
If it's one thing to have to face some legal scrutiny
Right.
if I really believe that I had no other option but to damage someone. It's another thing to do so if the confrontation was avoidable. Because now, like I said, not only do you have all that hanging over your head, man, you run the risk of being separated from my kid.
There you go.
I mean, so do I have an obligation to be there for my kid or not?
Yeah, yeah.
I say I do.
Yeah. Look, I hear you 100% because things like I was divorced. I'm married now, but I was
Right.
divorced and I had my 2 kids, and I was in situations when it could have got really hairy, and I extracted myself from them. Why? Because if I go and do something, and something bad happens, even if I'm the right, and I knock this guy out, and what if he hits his head on
Right.
a bar, on the ground or something and dies? Or what if I get killed? What if
Right.
his friend shoots me from behind? I don't know. I got a responsibility to them.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
we have responsibility to other people too. But listen, if it comes down to the, rubber hits the road, someone comes into the house, that comes to attack my family or something, hey, it's a whole different story.
Totally different.
Question. So, if we're looking at this, things that what you have to do is you have to weigh out the situation, know what these repercussions are, and try to avoid them. Because you know what, when it happens, look, you have to win, and you got to win at all costs.
Right.
But what is the end game? What is the situation? Is it worth the risk? You have to look at that risk versus benefit ratio.
Right. And a lot of times, and every guy can, or at least most of us can relate to this.
Yeah.
Right. There's still some ego there.
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so you think someone's giving you the stink eye, or maybe someone says something in your presence you don't like. Maybe someone even says something to you.
Yep.
And immediately, people, guys, act as if their manhood has been jeopardized. Now, I think a way to deal with this is to think, well, listen, man, if you're secure in your own manhood, why do you care what this
Yeah. Why do you care?
Right? I mean, see, I think a lot of guys who still have that kind of aggression, who still, in their own minds, they feel they have a point to prove.
Right.
They are not secure
No.
in their own manhood, right? But if you know what you know, then at the end of the day, you really should be able to just kind of, walk away, roll it off.
From it. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. Just
and train to think that way.
Right. That's the thing. You got to train to think that. It's a whole mindset.
Yeah.
Talk about mindset. If you want me as a mindset coach, go to winningmindset.com. I'm part of that group there. I do mindset coaching. I mean, that business is growing incredibly. Let me just read a couple other plugs here. We got upboxers.com, burnalong.com. Go onto our website, the Master Fill in Your Corner, to link on, check out these links. We have the P3 training group, Plan, Prepare, Protect. Are you, your family, and company prepared? We also have the Body Bell method, the world's only kettlebell bodyweight and dynamic tension certification based on a minimalist approach to strength, health, fitness. The system is recognized by both ACE and NASM for continuing education credits. Also, Warrior Island. I will be a coach on the next season, Warrior Island, coming out. We'll be filming it in August for 2-3 weeks in August. Yeah, so it's gonna be
What
pretty
channel is that on?
It's our streaming channel. It's on pay-per-view flicks.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
it's on pay-per-view flicks. So definitely come check it out. And Jack, man, you and I could talk forever.
Yeah,
So
we can.
we can. So you know what? It's great that we have to cut ourselves off. But but
yeah, I'll be back on whenever you want.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know,
we'll get back on. We'll bring you back again for a record. I think you are definitely my most visited guest. And again, thank you for being on the show. And people, just know what you're doing. Be smart and weigh your situations out and have a plan in mind prior to it happening.
Absolutely. So, Phil, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, man. Good talking again.
Always a pleasure, brother.
All right. Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, people, for listening, and strength and honor.
There you go.